We would like to welcome those of you here at the Slyman Theater, downtown New Iberia, to our forum for candidates seeking the office of New Iberia City Marshal. I'm Madison Sonia, your moderator for tonight's forum. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Greater Iberia Chamber of Commerce, Iberia Comprehensive Community Health Center, the City of New Iberia, and Leadership Iberia, which I am a proud alumni of Class 20. There are a few announcements before we begin this evening's program. Our sponsors wish to remind you that tonight's program is purely informational. Neither the Chamber, Iberia Comprehensive Community Health Center, the City of New Iberia, nor the Leadership Iberia program endorses any particular candidate running for office. The last day to register to vote for the October 12th primary election is September 11th. Early voting runs September 28th, 2019 to October 5th, 2019, and Election Day is October 12th. Also, the Chamber is posting all the forums to their YouTube channel, youtube.com/goodnewsiberia, and to the Chamber's Facebook page at Iberia Chamber. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates. All candidates in this race were invited to participate. Those in attendance tonight are Mr. Brett Lang, Mr. Mike Bomba Lopez, Mr. Tony Migues, and Mr. Greg Pete. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for an opening statement. We will then ask a series of questions, which each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer, unless otherwise noted. To assist the candidates in keeping time, we have a timekeeper and timing lights situated down front. Candidates, when your time begins, the green light will come on. When you have 15 seconds left, the yellow light will come on, and when your time is up, the red light will come on. At that time, you must finish your sentence. If that takes more than a few seconds, the buzzer will sound to let you know that you must stop.
Ma'am, I thought we had 90 seconds.
You have one question with 90 seconds. Everything else is 60 seconds.
I'm talking initial opening comments is 100, is it 90 seconds?
Each candidate will have 60 seconds for an opening statement. And then you'll have 60 seconds to answer all questions except for one question, and I'll let you know when it's that question.
Okay.
Due to the limits of time and to maintain a fair atmosphere, we ask that the audience hold any applause or other comments. All the questions I will ask tonight were predetermined. Questions were solicited from the public, and then an unbiased committee reviewed the questions submitted and came up with those that are to be asked tonight. All questions have been kept in strict confidence, and no one except the committee members and myself have seen them. At this time, I'll pick a name that will go first. Mr. Mike Bomba Lopez will go first, and then we'll go from left to right.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Bomba Lopez. Michael Lopez is my birth name. I live in the corner of Bank in St. Peter. Been there 42 years. This is my third run for City Marshal. I ran in '96, again 4 or 5 years ago. And this time, I have a desire to serve the city of New Iberia and make it what I call clean and safe again. I've been here all my life. I've worked in service all my life, serving the people. I do what I can for everybody I can. I'm a friend of most and just willing to work with people. I call myself a people person. I just feel as though there's a lot of ordinances on the books that hadn't been enforced for many, many years, and that's why the city has slowly gotten in the shape of sin. And people have lost the desire to live here and moving out. And I think it's time for a change. New Iberia is on a growth spurt right now. We need to keep pushing that and work with everybody and make things right and do what's good for New Iberia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Mr. Tony.
Good evening. My name is Tony Migues, and I'm seeking the office of City Marshal. I am married to the beautiful Peggy 14 Migues, and we have 3 wonderful children who have blessed us with 4 great-grandchildren. I graduated from Catholic High, went on to college to earn both a bachelor's and associate degree. I then enlisted in the military and served my country honorably for 25 years. I was the superintendent of Parks and Recreation for the city of New Iberia for 10 years. I went on to work for Jeff Landry at the Attorney General's office conducting fraud investigations for 2 years. Though I have served in many capacities, my passion has always been to be a police officer. So at the ripe old age of 63, I sponsored by Louisiana Department of Justice, I enrolled in and completed the police academy. I then served 2 years as patrol deputy. As your marshal, my primary job will be to protect the judge, plaintiffs, defendants, and anyone participating in the legal process. I further intend to modernize the office and plan to bring computers and a website so that citizens can be connected and informed about their marshal's office. There are many community programs available through federal, state, and nonprofit partners that
Thank
come
you,
at no
Mr.
cost
Tony.
to taxpayers.
Mr. Gregg.
Good afternoon. My name is Gregory Pete, and I am running for City Marshal. I grew up here in New Iberia my whole life, graduated from New Iberia Senior High, graduated in 1981. I am married to my wife, Jolene Pete. Together we have 6 children, 13 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. I'm the most experienced to serve you as your City Marshal. I have 30 years of law enforcement experience, most of which has been as a supervisor. My first 17 years of my career was with the New Iberia Police Department. After they disbanded the police department, I went and worked 2 years with Lafayette Sheriff's Office till Sheriff Ackle took over as our sheriff, and then I went work with him. Most of the time was as a shift supervisor. I am the most qualified to be your City Marshal because of my years' experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Brett.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone. Y'all can hear me? You can hear? Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for attending. It tells me 2 things. You care about your city and the safety of your community. My name is Brett Lang, and I'm running for New Iberia City Marshal. I'm experienced in business management. I've managed budgets, employees, and growth of organizations. Due to my passion for serving others, I've joined the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office as a patrol deputy. Then I was promoted to Human Resources as a background investigator. Promoted again to the Bureau of Investigations as a detective. While serving with the Sheriff's Office, I was a commissioned member of the Louisiana Sheriff's Association Task Force. Due to budget cuts, I was laid off, and that is when I began my career under Marshal Vic Delcom as a New Iberia City Marshal deputy. While working with Vic, I learned that his plan to retire, at which time I expressed interest in the position. He took me under his wing and began to mentor me. My plan is to modernize the office by bringing.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. So our first question will start with Mr. Tony. What about your education, experience, or other aspects of your background qualifies you to serve the City of New Iberia in the capacity of City Marshal? You'll have 60 seconds.
My background education, my high school education, I went to college, bachelor's and associate degree in criminal justice. I spent the last 5 years of my life getting ready for this position by went to work for the Attorney General's office. I worked there for 2 years as a special investigator. I went to the police academy. It's a 13-week police academy at the age of 63. The closest person my age was 32 years younger than me, but I got through it. Then I went on and was a patrolman for 2 years in St. Martin Parish. My many years of managing people, budgets, just knowing people and being around people, working for the city. I worked for the city for 10 years. I worked with the current mayor that time. I was running the parks. So I have a relationship there. I understand how it works. I'm here to help. I'm actually wanting to do the best I can to help the youngsters do some preventive things to keep the kids from getting in trouble.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Mr. Gregg?
Well, I have my education through a leader and working 30 years in law enforcement. Most of those years as a supervisor, as a shift supervisor, working with the people. I've also been in management outside of law enforcement as well, in retail. So I'm a manager of the people. I know how to work with the people and for the people.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Could you repeat the
Mr.
question?
Sure. What about your education, experience, or other aspects of your background qualifies you to serve the City of New Iberia in the capacity of City Marshal?
As I've previously stated, I've got experience in managing budgets, hiring employees, growth of an organization. I've got experience in law enforcement as patrol, human resources doing background investigations on potential candidates for the positions. I was also a detective. I am the only candidate that's ever worked for the City Marshal, so I have working knowledge of the City Marshal's office, the things that need to be upgraded and the ways to do it. Through my community service, I've established budgets, I've reestablished funding for a nonprofit organization in the matter of 5 months. I'm familiar with grants, how to apply for them, and how to maintain them.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Brett. All right, Mr. Mike,
Yes, ma'am.
you want me to ask you the question again?
Pardon?
You want me to repeat the question?
Please.
Okay. What about your education, experience, or other aspects of your background qualifies you to serve the city of New Iberia in the capacity of city marshal?
Well, I think I'm the oldest one up here sitting. I've been self-employed since 1988. I was first mentored in the early 80s by a former Catholic priest who had retired and became alcohol and drug counselor, family counselor. He took me under his wing, trained me. I formed the first DWI program, court approved in 1983 for the 16th Judicial District. I monitored Morgan City Court, Eunice City Court, Jennings City Court, and New Iberia City Court, along with all the parish courts, and was program director from 83 to 86. I left there and went to CDU of Acadiana, Chemical Dependency Unit of Acadiana in Carencro, worked there as marketing director and outreach coordinator for 2 years. Left that, came home, had my children, and decided to go into private business. And been self-employed. I know how to manage money. I hadn't dealt with a financial institution in 42 years. I'm very
Thank
good
you,
with-
Mr. Mike.
Pardon?
Thank you.
Okay.
Our second question, Mr. Gregg, you'll start it off. You have 90 seconds for this question. Many people have commented that they are not completely sure of the duties, responsibilities, and authority of the office of City Marshal. Please explain the job of the City Marshal.
Well, the city marshal is responsible, of course, for securing the city courthouse, but the marshal itself is a law enforcement entity. They have all the authority and powers of a sheriff, just within their ward, which consists of the city of New Iberia. So that's why it's important to have somebody with the experience, knowledge of how it works. They're responsible for serving all the papers for city court, evictions, civil suits, as well as the security. They also have arrest powers and the powers of investigatory powers. So it's more of a law enforcement entity than just security people, if you will, for the court.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Brett.
The city marshal is the executive officer of the court. They're tasked with serving subpoenas, evictions, civil lawsuits, paperwork, arrest warrants, and any orders that come out of the city court. According to state law, the city marshal has the same authority as the sheriff. They can investigate criminal matters, issue traffic citations, and also enforce city ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Mr. Mike?
Pretty much same as what everybody said. Just do things that really hadn't been done or have been contracted to the sheriff's office for several years. And I think we need to, tighten up the budget and do things in a more home-style fashion. Do the work, get it done like I do. You want something done, I get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Mr. Tony?
Yes, as everyone said, Marshal is the executor of the court. He executes the orders of the court, and he does, as I was saying, eviction, seizures, there's marshal sale. He's security of the courtroom, which is a very important task. But I see the marshal's office as more than that. I think there's more that the office can do. My plan is to work as closely as I can with the city police chief and the mayor to work to see what that office, the city marshal's office, can do to assist them in securing the community. There's several things that can be done. There's several FTAs that are out there that need to be picked up that are failure to appears. City ordinances and direct traffic. There's lots of things that the marshal's office can do to assist the city in security, not being a city police, but assisting them. There's a lot of ways that we can be creative to help them so our city is more secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. So, Mr. Brett, you can answer the next one first. You have 60 seconds for this question. What challenges or opportunities do you see for the City Marshal office over the next 4 years, and how do you expect to meet them?
The top three would be the office needs to be modernized. Currently, there's no technology in the office, not even a computer. So we need to modernize the office. Second thing, currently there's no budget for the city marshal's office. I'm gonna have to get creative in order to get funds into the marshal's office. The way the funds are coming in right now through traffic citations written by the city police, court cost, and service of papers. And I wanna have a more involved marshal's office. I wanna build a working relationship and trust with the community members, with business owners, local business owners, and also with local law enforcement agencies. There's so much that the city police and the city marshal can do to make this community a safer place. We just have to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Mr. Mike?
Question again, please?
Sure. What challenges or opportunities do you see for the City Marshal office over the next 4 years, and how do you expect to meet them?
Well, to make one correction, it's 1 year, then we gotta run again. It's just to fulfill his last year in office. But if I do win the second term for 4 years,
6.
I plan on really modernizing the office and get, computers and everything in there to make it sufficient and more or less self-running, where we have to run around and serve papers 2 and 3 times to people and get it done more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Mr. Tony?
Repeat the question.
Sure. What challenges or opportunities do you see for the City Marshal office over the next 4 years, and how do you expect to meet them?
Challenges, budget. But I think, as someone alluded earlier, the city police is out there writing citations now. There's money's coming in. There's over 1,500 failure to appear warrants on the books right now that need to be addressed. That's thousands and thousands of dollars that's out there that would help the New Iberia city budget and the budget of the Marshal's office. The thing I'd like to do is also work with the city police department to find out where their needs are for us. Challenges, really, the court system right now is running great. The guys in there doing a great job. I see an opportunity now. New Iberia is on the cusp, I think, of a great growth. We have several people, good candidates running for sheriff and other offices. I think it's time for us to come together, work together for success.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Mr. Gregg?
Well, kind of like what Mr. Lang had said, the office has no computer. We need to get to the 21st century. And the budgetary issues, that's something I think that we all know, that there's not much of a budget, but we need to tackle that best way we can, and work together, like we're all saying, with the city police and the sheriff's office, serving the warrants. I'd like to establish eventually a warrants division. Traffic citations, they can enforce the laws while they're doing serving their warrants and whatnot. I don't want to go run speed traps, anything like that. But I would expect them to enforce any laws and violations that they do see.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Mike, if you are elected as City Marshal, what will be your relationship with the New Iberia Police Department?
I'm sorry, what?
If you're elected as City Marshal, what will be your relationship with the New Iberia Police Department?
We have a good relationship, I would hope to think. We have to all work together. The police department is the police department, and the marshal's office is the marshal's office. They're two separate entities. The police are more or less hired, the marshal is elected, so it's a kind of a different position for the public. The public expects a little more out of you directly, I would think. And I plan on giving them the best service the city's ever had. That's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mike.
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question. If you are elected as City Marshal, what will be your relationship with the New Iberia Police Department?
Good, very good. I know the chief. He's doing an excellent job. I'm going to do everything I can to work with them. I hope to meet, if I can, weekly with them to see what it is they need that department to do to make the city of New Iberia safer. I don't want to be a clog. I want to be a help. I do not want to get in their way. There's many things that we can do to assist them and help them. Truancy, kids out of school, curfew, neighborhood watch. There's many things that we can do to assist that organization, to free them up, to go out and fight the crime, the real crime on the streets. I plan on being the best friend that the chief and the mayor ever had. They may not like that, but I plan on being their friend.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Mr. Gregg?
Yes, absolutely. I'm probably the only one up here that has worked with both entities, sheriff's office as well as with the city police. Left on good terms, still have a good working relationship. I don't see why we couldn't work together and continue a good working relationship. My deputies would assist theirs as need be, whether it be on criminal matters, just community policing efforts, or even natural disaster efforts. We'd work together as one.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Brett?
I do plan on meeting with the chief if elected, and the mayor as well, and sit down and get a game plan together to see how the marshal's office can benefit the police department. I don't want a marshal's office that's gonna be the police department. I want to be a backup to the police department. Should something major happen in the city where they have to take officers off the road to secure a crime scene, why can't the marshal's office come out and do that? And free up those road deputies, or officers, to where they can go back and answer calls. I want to be a complete asset to the police department, not a competition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. All right, Ms. Tony. What is an issue that has not been raised tonight, but you think needs more discussion, and what are your thoughts about it?
That's a good question.
You
Very
got
good.
60 seconds.
60 seconds. Well, kids, our youth. I plan on focusing on the kids. I think that if we can get our kids at an early age, between the ages of, say, 9 to 14, teaching them how to make the right decisions, bring people in to talk to them, get a program developed that if they get in some trouble, maybe on a weekend they can come in, and I will develop the program to meet with them on weekends and talk to them. But I think it's our kids. If we can get our kids early, if we can talk to them, show them the right way to go, it's preventive. It'll keep us from a lot of heartache. I mean, we have kids getting hurt, getting shot, getting killed every day. We need to stop it. It's time for someone to step in, and we gotta help these children, give them the guidance that they need and the attention and love that they deserve. And I see that this department is a perfect tool to do that. And if I'm elected, that's exactly what I plan on doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Mr. Gregg?
Well, I kind of do agree with exactly what Mr. Tony said, is the youth and community policing and the community as a whole, and reaching out to the community and finding out where their needs are, and not just assuming where we think their needs are. I would like to establish, with the assistance of the city police and even the sheriff's office, maybe another, either explore scouts like we used to have a long time ago. The sheriff's office had one, the city police had one. But instead of doing two separate ones, join the forces together and do one together, to get the youth involved and understand kind of like what we do and bring them together with the police and not be so much anti-police instead of pro-police, and us understand them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Brett?
The warrants. Right now, city court has over 3,000 warrants that aren't being served. That's revenue that's not coming into the city that could benefit the city's marshal's office. I plan to implement a citizens advisory panel. I do plan on hiring more deputies. I want the citizens to have a say in who works for them, or who works for me, should I say. Because at the end, I work for the people who elect me. I want to get with the city judge and establish a litter abatement program. When people are sentenced to community service, why not let the marshal's office go have them in the neighborhoods picking up trash? It's a benefit to the citizens, and hopefully they'll learn their lesson and not come back through our courts again. And I want to establish an Explorer program in the high schools. Our youth are our future, and if we don't get a handle on them, we're gonna lose them. I mean, y'all see what's happening in the communities, the guns. It's not a good thing. We have to get a handle on our youth, and I feel that I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Mr. Mike?
Questions about the youth,
No. You want me to read the question again?
please?
Okay. What is an issue that has not been raised tonight, but you think needs more discussion, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I kind of agree with most of them, the youth. You know, the younger generation today, we have a beginning loss, and we have lost about 80% of them. And I blame a lot of it on social media and Facebook, but that's a whole nother story. My plan is to introduce, like they did back in the 60s and 70s, sports programs sponsored by the Sheriff's Department or the City Police or the Marshal's office, vocational programs. I work with my hands. I was in white collar for quite a long time, 20 years. I left in '88 and went to work with my hands, which I was taught when I was very young. High school, I had mechanics. I majored in math, English, and shop, woodworks, metalworks, and auto body, and mechanics. And I've made a good living off of it because I know what I'm doing. I tell these kids, if you can work with your hands, you'll never look for a meal. You can always go somewhere and make money. And nobody can stop you from learning. Learn all you can. Knowledge is a gift. Get it all.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll start with closing statements. You have 30 seconds to close. We're going to start with you, Mr. Gregg. Hold on. Sorry. All right, we'll start with you, Mr. Gregg. Closing
Okay.
statements, 30 seconds each.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, I got 30 years in law enforcement experience, most of it as a supervisor, running patrol shifts, managing people. I have a lot to offer. I love the city of New Iberia. I'm from here. My kids live here. I want to do what I can to help this city and move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Brett?
I want to thank everybody again for coming. I do have experience, and I feel that this city needs some young blood in office. It's time. Somebody with some creative ideas that can get involved in the community as I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Mr. Mike?
Well, I don't belong to any social organizations, quote unquote, Rotary and all of that, because I lost my wife when she was 41. I had to raise my two girls by myself, 7 and 10. So I was pretty busy for the last 20 or so years. But I've been here all my life. I'm from a family of 12. I grew up in construction. I know what it is to earn $1. I went to work at 13. And I'm 70 years old today, and I'm still working. I'll work a 30-year-old all day long. And I'm proud of my health and everything
Thank
I
you,
have.
Mr. Mike.
Thank you.
Mr. Tony?
I'd like to thank the chamber for inviting me to this forum. I hope that my answers to the questions that you asked explain my vision for the city of Marshal's office. I'm very energetic, creative, and live up to the challenges presented me. My priorities in life are God, my family, and work, in that order. I promise to make you proud, and believe me, and I ask for your vote, but believe me, you're gonna get your money's worth with me. And as my daddy said when I was younger, what you
Thank you,
do
Mr. Tony.
speaks so loudly that what you say I cannot hear.
This concludes tonight's forum for City Marshal of New Iberia. Next forum will begin at 6 p.m. for Iberia Parish Clerk of Court. We certainly appreciate the time and effort put forth by the candidates here tonight. How about a round of applause for all these men? Again, we wish all the candidates well and want to encourage all registered voters to exercise your right to vote in this upcoming election and all elections. This concludes this portion of our program. Be sure to spread the word about the forum's posting on YouTube.